Hello there to all my fellow queerosexuals. I'm Rob Sagimura, and this is the Gay Bear Game Cave, where I play games bad, but look bad doing it. Is that is that good? Do you like it? Today I'm going to show you the Black Mage, as far as I know it, which I don't think is very well, but we're going to see. The Black Mage has a very sort of strict maximized rotation, which is notoriously difficult to maintain in a raid setting. It is capable of very good movement, specifically in an ability over here called Ethereal Manipulation, and also Between the Lines, which I barely use. It isn't even on my bar. But it requires so much time and place to really get your maximum damage that it can be very hard to really get where you're going. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that. First off, your abilities come in basically three types. You've got ice magic, fire magic, and then everything in between, which is all over the place. The easiest way to show this off is actually with your AoE rotation, which I wouldn't normally show off first, but it's got fewer abilities, and it's very easy to remember. So we're going to take a look at that. So your first spell we're going to look at is High Blizzard 2, which is originally Blizzard 2. It's an AoE ice spell that costs very little mana and then costs even less once you've cast it once. That's because it's going to give you stacks of what's called Umbral Ice. Umbral Ice is going to reduce the cost of your spells, but also reduce their damage pretty much across the board. And you see 3,800 in AoE, not amazing, kind of cool looking. But it is going to just refresh this ability, this Astral Ice, and you want to keep Astral Ice up. Or the alternative, which is this. Or, sorry, Umbral Ice. Astral Fire. We're casting High Fire 2, which is going to give us stacks of Astral Fire. Astral Fire is going to increase our damage, but also increase the cost of our spells. Except for ice spells, which you see are still free, as long as you've got one of the other ice spells. So how does the class work? You basically want to switch between these two, fire and ice. But you see that when I'm in Umbral Ice and I cast Astral Fire, it does not a lot. However, when I'm in Astral Fire and I cast Astral Fire, it does quite a bit more. The goal there is to try to cast as many Astral Fires and related spells as you can while in Fire phase, or in Astral Fire, and then when you run out of mana, you switch back to Ice, Umbral Ice, and use that to recover your mana, because your mana recovery will go out of control, magic recovery, and it gives you sort of a sustained damage while giving you the flexibility you need. Maintaining these phases will also give you an ability, or a buff called a knock-in, which you used to have to maintain, and it was torture. It wasn't torture, really. It was actually really easy once you got used to it, but there was so much maintenance for it, it wasn't worth it. Now, as long as you're maintaining Astral Fire or Umbral Ice, you are keeping up a knock-in, which is just a flat damage boost. But wait, there's more. So on top of Umbral Ice through High Blizzard 2, having stacks of Umbral Ice will also give you access to a spell called Freeze. Freeze did not used to be so important to our AoE rotation. It was kind of a weird place, because you see it doesn't do a heck of a lot of damage, and it doesn't look incredible anymore. It used to look great. Now it's kind of the opposite of Flare. But Freeze does a very important thing, which it gives us stacks of, what are they called? Umbral Hearts. And those are those three little lines. You can see there's this weird little dial here with all these different indicators. It's called the element gauge. We're going to get to that. So what do the Umbral Hearts do? Umbral Hearts actually reduce the cost of your fire spells that you cast in Astral Fire. I know it makes no sense. But why is that important? Because it lets you cast more Astral Fire spells before running out of mana. And you want that. You want to be casting as many Astral Fire, fire spells as you can in order to maximize your damage, because you're going to do so much more with your fire spells than your ice spells. There is another caveat to that, though, which is that you have your big spender in your Astral Fire spells, which is Flare. And it looks like this, and it's one of my favorite spells in the game. I love the screen shake. Oh, the screen shake was such a decision, and I appreciate it. This is confusing, right? However, there's a very easy way to understand what you're doing here, and I'm going to show you. So, you cast... So we'll get out of here, and then we'll start off like we're starting off. So, you cast High Blizzard 2. That's going to give you your 3 stacks of Umbral Ice. And then you cast Freeze, and that's going to give you your 3 Umbral Hearts. And then we're going to cast a High Fire to switch to Astral Fire. And then we're going to cast another one just to do damage, because it's nice. And you'll see I'll lose my Umbral Heart. But I'm also gaining a buff called Enhanced Flare. It's going to increase the amount of damage I do with Flare until I switch to Umbral Ice. So just to show that off again, High Blizzard, Freeze, and then switch to Astral Fire, and then switch to Flare. So at this point, or to use an Umbral Heart, at this point I could use Flare, and I will. But what it's going to do is it's going to knock out a huge amount of my bar. And in fact, if I didn't have that Umbral Heart, it would just use everything. The reason for that is because that's how Flare works. The MP cost of Flare is, hey, what you got, that's how much I need. But an Umbral Heart is going to reduce that. And under normal circumstances, obviously, you couldn't cast more than 1 Flare in a row. But when you have an Umbral Heart left, you can. And you also want to get that damage buff. So there's like a perfect maximized way to do this. You're going to cast High Fire to get into Astral Fire, and then cast it again to do damage, and get your Enhanced Flare. And then cast it one more time because you want to get as many as you can. But then, I only have 1 Umbral Heart left. So to cast 2 Flares, I have to have 1 on Umbral Heart, like this. Big ol' boom, for a pretty significant amount of damage. You'll find that AoE is not someplace that the Black Mage lacks. And then another one. I'm at 0 mana now, but I got off 3 High Fires and 2 Flares. Much, much easier to understand the rotation for the Black Mage in AoE, because it's very robotic. You're just switching between these and using them to get the maximum damage out. I'm really doing this for my sake at this point. I used to watch Black Mages and be like, oh, I don't have the patience to get a Black Mage up to 50, but I love Flare. And then I started seeing the other spells, and I thought they were amazing. So there's a couple other mechanics in AoE that we want to make sure that we're paying attention to. So real quick, you've got an AoE dot in Thunder 4, which I think looks better than it has any right to. I think it's a cool looking spell. You want to keep that up because of damage, but also because Thunder 4 will also proc Thundercloud, which allows you to cast it instantly and add the remaining damage on the AoE. And then also, whenever you maintain a knock-in, which means that you keep either Umbral Ice or Astral Flare, it doesn't matter which one, or Astral Fire, for, what is it, 30 seconds apiece, you will gain a stack of a knock-in, and or Polyglot. What Polyglot will let you do is this, a spell called Foul, which is a high damage AoE instant cast. Who doesn't like it, right? You can also gain a stack of Polyglot just by using this ability right here called Amplifier. It doesn't always fit in great in your rotation, and it's got a long cooldown, so you don't want to be using it for AoE most of the time, because AoE is usually for trash, and if you're using cooldowns on trash, then something has gone wrong in your dungeon. Usually I'm not using cooldowns for trash. But that's it. That's the AoE rotation. Keep up Thunder. I mean, really, honestly, it's very easy to know which one you want to focus on, which is High Blizzard 2, Freeze. And then because it's so easy to manage this phase, this is usually when I cast Thunder, and then go straight into High Fire 2, High Fire 2, one more High Fire, and then Flare, and then Flare. Look how good it looks like this, too. Ooh. And then back to your Umbral Ice phase. And then it's really easy just to throw a foul in there whenever you want to. You have the room. And you see, that's about enough time for your Thunder to wear off. So it comes around pretty good. That's the AoE rotation for the most part. I'm actually... so the other thing we want to look at is single target, obviously. Single target works quite a bit differently. It follows the same basic thing, switch between Umbral Ice and Astral Fire in order to maintain a damage buff. However, doing it is a little bit different. You still have your basic abilities in the Ice side, but you have a little bit of a different setup on the Fire side. So we're going to start off with that. So first of all, Blizzard 3 works like High Blizzard 2. Sets you up with 3 stacks of Rumble Ice, and then you're going to get your Rumble Hearts from Blizzard 4, just like Freeze. This is a great place usually to cast Thunder. And then you want to switch to the other side by casting Fire 3. Just like High Fire 2. That part is where it's pretty much the same. However, there is a little bit of a difference here in how things are going to change at this point. If you're at a lower level, this won't apply, but this is for 90, really. So whenever you switch between fire and ice, you're going to get a stack of what's called Paradox. I think that's what it's called. That's what it does. Yeah, Paradox marker. And Paradox is this ability. Unaspected damage with a potency of 500. It is not AoE, so for the most part, you're not going to be using it in AoE, which is interesting because a lot of these max level abilities got dropped into AoE in Endwalker, I think in order to sort of streamline when you're using your AoE abilities, because most of the time you were leaving your best abilities out of your rotation. But what Paradox is going to do is it's going to act as both Blizzard 1 and Fire 1, which, if you have Blizzard 1 in your rotation in Endwalker, I don't know why. I don't like that. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I don't see the point. But it's going to have different, basically, abilities depending on which phase you're in. So if we're looking at Blizzard 3, you see it has a potency of 240, and it refreshes all of your Umbral Ice stacks. And then we're going to drop more 4 for our Umbral Hearts. And then you switch to fire. And so at this point, if I switch back, I'm going to get my Paradox stack. What Paradox will do in this phase is it will refresh my element gauge, do a pretty good amount of damage, and give me a little bit more room to play around if I want to cast a foul or its single target equivalent, which we're learning about right now, Xenoglossy. You get 2 stacks, single target, use Xenoglossy, multi-target, use foul. There were cases, albeit rare before, where you would want to cast a foul and then a Xenoglossy, and those were specifically to look cool. But you want to just use it. It's obvious which one you want to use when now. So switching between fire and ice will give you a Paradox stack. So you're always going to have Paradox whenever you switch phase. So in our build phase right here, we're going to cast Blizzard spells. We're going to get Umbral Ice stacks and Umbral Hearts. We're going to keep Thunder up. And then as soon as we're at perfect MP and we have the stacks, we switch over to fire. Just like AoE. And then this is going to give us a stack of Paradox. We're not going to use it yet. Because, just like the other one, there's some spells we want to get off while we have Umbral Ice stacks, or Umbral Hearts. And these are Fire 4. Fire 4 is your bread and butter spell. And it has a longer cast time, and you need to get in just so in order to use the rotation right. Because if you cast it 4 times, you're going to run out. You won't have any time, and it doesn't refresh your Astral Fire. So you always want to cast it 1... Oop, I don't have my Umbral Hearts. So whenever you're casting Black Mage ice spells, you want to cast 1 Fire 4, 2 Fire 4, 3 Fire 4, and then you're about to run out. If you cast another one, this is when you cast Paradox. Refreshes your Astral Fire, and has another effect which we'll go over in a second. But this gives you a chance to cast more Fire 4s. You might have spent too much time talking, you might not get to it. Cast your Fire 4s, and then you want to end it with Despair. Despair works kind of... Oh, I missed it. Well, look at it. Take a look at it. Despair works kind of like Flare did in AoE. It uses your remaining mana to MP, whatever, to do a bucket. But also the nice thing about it is that its cost is your remaining MP. So like you can see with remaining Humble Heart's gone, my fire costs 1600 now. I'm going to get under 1600, so that's when I know that it's time to cast Despair. And then Despair. And that will refresh my Astral Fire, which is important for the way the rotation works. We're actually going to see how refreshing Astral Fire plays a lot in the rotation. But when I cast Despair and I'm at 0 mana, MP, whatever, that's when I know I want to switch back to Ice. And I've got a Paradox again, and we'll go ahead and use that just because, I mean, it looks great, but also it does a good amount of damage. So, the weird thing about how Black Mage works is the spells that don't really do damage and when to use them. Like Xenoglossy, you basically want to make sure that you're using it when you have damage buffs and not overcapping your Polyglot. But like, what about the spells that don't do damage? So I'm going to show you how those really play a part in this. And the way that they really do is through allowing you to not have to try so hard. So we're going to do our normal rotation. Let's say this is our opener. Blizzard 3, Blizzard 4, Thunder 3. And then we're going to cast Fire, and this is going to switch us over into our Astral Fire. And right then I'm going to cast Ley Lines, which is going to increase my damage, and then Triple Cast. And Triple Cast is going to instant cast our next 3 spells. This is super useful specifically for Fire 4. So I just wasted it, but not doing my full rotation properly is like the hardest thing in the world. So but cast Fire 3, get into it. We have our Ley Lines up, cast Triple Cast, Fire 4 1, Fire 4 2, Fire 4 3. That's nice because you can move around while you're doing it. And then I like to use my Swift Cast, and then you want to do a Sharp Cast and Paradox. The reason for this is that Sharp Cast is going to give you a Fire Starter stack on Fire 3, which we're only using to switch between them and also to do this. Give ourselves some flexibility in dropping Astral Fire stacks into our bar. If you get interrupted in the middle of a cast of Fire 4, this is a great place to do it. So that's and you're getting 2 stacks of Sharp Cast now. The other thing you're going to use them for is to force the proc of Thundercloud, but you don't really need to always do that. So just to show it again, just because I want to. So Fire 3, and now we have Triple Cast, but we're not going to do it. This is how it looks without it. Fire 4, Fire 4. Now it's like counting. That's what people call Black Mage. It's like the counting class. It's the real calculator. Sharp Cast, Paradox, Fire 4, Fire 4. Let's say I get interrupted casting here and I need the time. I'll cast my Fire 3 on Fire Starter, which will make it instant cast. I can cast Fire 4 again, and then Despair. With Triple Cast, with 2 stacks of Triple Cast, you want to put that on your Ley Lines, and we're about to see why. So I'm probably not going to talk as much, I'm just going to explain how it goes. Because you'll need that extra time, even though your mana will run out, because you've got this ability here called Mana Font. And what Mana Font is going to do is it's going to give you a little bit more mana, and that's going to let you cast a second Despair and 1 more Fire 4. You want to do that while you have Ley Lines up because that will do more damage. And you also want to try to fit in your Xenoglossies during this time too. It is an absolutely packed rotation. I'm not great at it, which is why I drop Quick Tongue materia on my bar, on my armor, which I'm sure that somebody is going to watch this and say using Quick Tongue materia is like the biggest waste of time, but it's just who I am. It's who I am inside. When will my reflection show? We're going to see what it looks like to do this rotation for maximum damage with ley lines and triple cast. Again, ley lines is a damage buff. Triple cast is going to make your spells instant cast. So we come up, we say, oh my god, there's a striking dummy attacking. Hit Blizzard 3. Blizzard 4. Thunder 3. And then Fire 3. And then this is when I'm going to drop my ley lines and triple cast. You don't want to waste it on that Fire 3 because that Fire 3 is not doing as much damage as it could. Triple cast is used up, so Sharp Cast and Swift Cast to get Fire 1 or Paradox out. Cast 3 Fire 4s. If I need the time to breathe, I will cast that Fire 3. Cast Despair. Now Mana Font to get the magic back in our relationship. Fire 4. Another Despair, Xenoglossy, and can I get another Xenoglossy before Leylands runs out? Like, just barely. So if you can get both Xenoglossies out, you want to. Xenoglossy has a potency of 660. I believe that's your highest. Yeah, I think that's your highest by far. It's really hard to tell how much damage you're going to do with Fire 4 because it doesn't tell you how much Astral Fire actually increases the damage, and I can't look that up because I'm lazy. But getting you always want Xenoglossy to drop during your ley lines, and it's complicated to get that off perfectly in a raid. So if you don't do it, don't let anybody tell you that you did anything wrong. But, you know, if you're not doing that, you really want to just leave your mana font for when you can use it to get your ley lines, or when you can use it to get those extra damage during your ley lines. And you'll see without the Sharp Cast there, which you can basically cast every time that you cast Paradox on Astral Fire now. I'm not getting the Fire Starter stack. And then I got Blizzard, I can cast Paradox, Xenoglossy. So this used to be a lot harder because you didn't have nearly as much ability to Swift Cast things. Triple Cast used to be 1 charge, it's 2 charges now. Sharp Cast, you have 2 charges of now. Foul used to be casting time, which it doesn't really matter that it's not. But movement was really the hard thing. You're still going to be sitting still most of the time. The weird thing now is being able to go through your burn phase while moving, which is a delightful change. There's a last couple abilities I want to talk about here. I don't even have everything on my bar, which is the crazy part, but Mana Ward, which I also have up here, but I always forget that I have it on my crossbar here. Which is a shield. Let's see, how much does it protect you for? 30% of maximum HP. It's on a pretty long cooldown. Yeah, 2 minutes. You want to use it for the big hit. Always use your damage reduction cooldowns because otherwise you're a jerk to the healers in your party. I've got Lucid Dreaming on here. That's if I die. It's just to make sure I can get to my Blizzard faster. But also it doesn't, you don't really need it. I don't think it's doing anything for your rotation 90% of the time. I just feel more comfortable seeing it there because I use it for Red Mage and Summoner when I'm doing raises. The last thing here is Transpose. Transpose is interesting. It's pretty much only useful for between encounters when you want to keep things up and for generating Paradox for no reason. So if I've got Umbral Ice and I hit Transpose, I switch to Astral Fire and I gain a Paradox stack. If I'm in Astral Fire and I switch back to Ice, I gain a Paradox stack. You don't need to do that, but it's good in between encounters. You can use it to keep your Enochian up, which means that you're starting with it when you start in the next encounter. And it also means that you're building up Polyglot stacks to cast Xenoglossy and Foul. You have another ability that will allow you to do that, which is right here. It's Umbral Soul. This actually builds up Umbral Ice and Umbral Hearts, which is very useful for in-between encounters. And, again, to keep up Polyglot. If you can start an encounter at full Umbral Hearts, and full Umbral Ice, that means that you don't have to start with Blizzard. You can start with Thunder 3 and jump right into your damage phase. And losing those cooldowns, or those GCDs, is really useful. Other than that, Black Mage, like, you just need to see it on paper almost. So, you know, look something up. Feel comfortable with it, but this is what it looks like, and it is difficult to keep it up. If you know somebody that is hitting this absolutely max parsing on Black Mage, then guess what? They're better than I am, which is not a surprise because their YouTube channel is probably not about how bad they are at video games. But the Black Mage is challenging. It has gotten easier, but it's also extremely rewarding because you put out buckets of damage. I mean, your high potency abilities are just putting out a ton on a hit, and your burn phase with Astral Fire is extremely satisfying for the amount of damage it does. If I had a complaint, I wish that Paradox benefited from the Astral Fire buff. I don't think it does. But between just all of your abilities dropping genuine chunks of damage and the wonderful way they look, to be completely honest, they're all great looking. You know, one of the best things about the Black Mage is that when I cast like a really powerful spell, Paradox, you can actually see that I'm not wearing any pants under my robe. Oh! Extremely satisfying class to play. And also, if you're having trouble and you're dying a lot in a raid, and you're a Black Mage, a lot of times people will just say, oh, well, you can't move around a lot, it's a Black Mage. So don't let them know that you've got triple cast off of cooldown. In any case, that's the Black Mage. It's a lot of fun to learn, honestly. It's a lot of fun to just play with because all the spells look great. A lot of the artifact weapons and artifact armors look really fun. Like, look at this staff. Look at this Eye of Sauron here. It was worth all the grinding. Really, really fun to play. Absolutely puts out boats of damage, and it is worth taking the time to learn. So that's all I've got for today. Again, as always, my name is Rob Sagimura, and this is the Gay Bear Game Cave, where I play games bad and I look bad doing it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you give it a try. Thanks.